What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Gramercy Theater. That is Counterpart sound checking right now. And right now we are here with Tyler and Chuck of the Almighty Foreign Hands. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for
Good to
having
be
us.
here.
It's so awesome to have you guys here. 2022 has been quite a busy year for you guys with the release of the Bleed the Dream EP. And I know you got 2 new singles out debuting on Sharp Tone Records. Is all that we've been hearing so far a good representation of the direction that Foreign Hands is going into in the future?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we really honed it in with Will when we did Lucid Noise recently. Bleed the Dream was like our first like real testament, I think, to like where we were trying to head. So I mean, we're just expanding. It's a process, but we're getting there.
Just pushing forward, but trying to stay true to the roots that we're from. Also, kind of always keep that with us no matter what.
Was there a preconceived vision of what you want, like a full-length Foreign Hands album or a song to sound like, or has your songwriting process always been very experimental and improvisational?
It's been here or there, like over the years. I feel like sometimes we've gone into it with like full-fledged ideas, and then like other times we've written songs on the spot. Like a good example is like we played around and ripped apart like Separation Souvenir like a million times, but Hesitation Marks was written literally within a couple hours of just like hanging out. So it's here or there. I think we approach writing differently to get different outcomes.
It adds like good variety, I think, to have stuff that's like formulated and like really you sit down and you piece it out, and then some just like sporadic and off the top of the head.
But being the bass player and the drummer, the rhythm section, it's the most important part of the band, and I imagine the most pressuring part, and despite all the horrible bass player memes that we've read about here and there. But do you feel like maybe there's a little less room for experimentation because there is such kind of like a structure that you tend to have to follow in a way? Or are you kind of able to go off and do your own thing plenty of times as well?
I feel like both of us specifically with songwriting have like the freedom to kind of do with it what we want. There is, a formula somewhat to this style of music, but there's still a lot of room to, have personal interpretation. And we're both also guitarists before anything else, so it makes it easier, I think, to kind of contribute to the songwriting.
Yeah. I think, because I mean, like he was saying, like, most of the time it's when we're writing, it's literally all 5 of us holding guitars, like just like hashing out riffs and stuff. But I think the guitars are what end up being the more like formulated thing in the songwriting process. And I feel like when we get in there, I feel like it's kind of just like do your own thing, like do what you want to do. So I mean, lots of room for experimentation on drums personally, and then I got to witness him track with Will when we recently did those 2 songs, and also a lot of experimentation there. It was really cool to see. So
when it comes to like laying down your parts for the song, is it better like being that the bass has both an emphasis on rhythm and melody, do you prefer to have like guitar riffs already there, or to have like guitar patterns already there before you start laying down drum patterns? Or have any of you ever had like a structure or a pattern already written that the rest of the band could write over?
I think personally, I haven't really done anything that's like I feel like it's kind of hard to write guitar to drums specifically. Like obviously you can do it, but I mean, I don't know. I'll go in with a couple ideas, like maybe some fills and stuff like that, and see if I can like tastefully fit them in places. But for the most part, I actually really do like just doing it the way that I feel like God intended. You just you just find your guitar riff and you figure out how to make like the best drum pattern over it. So yeah, I prefer it that way for sure.
Not gonna talk shit now, but when you get the guitar or the song structure presented to you and there's no drums or bass on it, how off time is it sometimes?
I feel like we're pretty uniform, honestly. Like we don't get as much time just all living in like the city or like small apartments and stuff like that to really like jam stuff out that often. So like a lot of it is pretty like formulated, sometimes on a computer, or like just like we're taking videos of ourselves playing and stuff, like shit like that. So it's usually not that hard to get together. I feel like we usually have a pretty good idea of where we're going by the time we get there. So
they're all decent enough musicians that I feel like it's rare that like this doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. Well, is it better if everybody in the band is on the same page when it comes to songwriting and coming up with ideas, or could all of you maybe being in your own headspace or feeling differently about the material maybe actually help add contrast or broaden the horizons a little bit?
I mean, we all like a lot of the same stuff, but we also have very far-reaching tastes, I think. Like, I mean, I'm really into R&B and jazz and stuff, and like a lot of the guys like country and like electronic music and whatever. So we can kind of draw inspiration from a lot of different places while still having the same core of like what we draw from too.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I think we all kind of come from different like musical backgrounds and strengths and have different things that we like, and I honestly think that's what, you know, makes everything stronger in the end, is like finding a way to play to everyone's like strengths specifically and not like trying to force anyone or like, you know, pigeonhole anybody.
And when it comes to like laying down your parts, is it better to come up with ideas when you're all in the company of each other and you're all are in a rehearsal room or a practice space or the studio together, or isolation is such a great fuel for creativity that maybe being alone in your own element allows you to come up with ideas a little bit easier?
I think that that's another one of those things where it's kind of like both, you know, like it's I can like sit down and write like full-fledged songs and then present it to the band, and vice versa. Like pretty much anyone can do that. And then like we kind of just like at that point can cut a couple pieces out, write a couple pieces in, you know, change the arrangement and stuff like that. Or, you know, there's other times where we're just like sitting there and it's like, oh, how about we do this? And then someone else is like, oh, how about we do this? And then it's like one after the other after the other. I think it's good to have a balance between both with that as well.
I definitely think the best ideas that we have had are like other bands that we've been in general. Just they always come when you're not looking for them. Like I'm just at work or I'm on the train or something, and I just think of something and I've like play it again and again in my head until I can get it out in the world. But I feel like that's when you're not looking for it, that's when the best stuff comes out.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Or inspiration strikes at like the most inconvenient of times as well too, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Like in the shower, I'm like the best.
shower.
Yeah, I'm a maestro. Like,
Okay. So what do you think of this idea? They need to make studio equipment that fits in the shower, like waterproof. Like so, just every time somebody's in the shower, or just set off the smoke alarm in like the next high-end recording studio, and just like bring some shampoo with you, make it more at home. There you go.
You're onto something for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how the engineer would feel about getting water on his mixing board, but yeah, no, he'll forgive you.
Well, if you write a platinum track, then he's got to forgive you.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Then I'll have no problem replacing that mixer after that.
I'm gonna make sure like a key like process to the writing for whatever we do next is gonna be showers. We just take lots of showers.
Hey, that'll probably make you guys one of the better smelling bands in the whole scene, right?
At the very least.
Yeah, at the very least.
Joke. But when it comes to getting that inspiration in a way, you mentioned it strikes at very inconvenient times in a way. Is it a lot of looking outward or a lot of looking inward? Does it have to be reflective of an emotion that you were feeling, or is there like a lot of maybe observation or people watching that's maybe kind of channeling into your creative energy?
I mean, it's kind of starts with one or the other, I feel like. Mm-hmm. You see things that are going on around you, and then you take it inside, and like that's where things start to wheels start to turn, and things start to pop up. But
yeah,
I feel like we're answering a lot of these questions like it is a little bit of both. Like there's always a balance to everything.
Yeah, I think I think balance in everything, honestly. Like sometimes you see shit and you're like, that's really cool. Like I want to do something like that, or like draw inspiration from that. And then like other times, you just feel a certain way and you just like have the urge to, I don't know, put it out into the world. And then you have to figure out, it's like, okay, what vessel do I put this in? Like, how do I get it out there, in a way that like is musical and is well received. So.
How do you know when you are finished with a song?
Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like it's a pretty clear, just like everyone looks at each other and it's just like, Like that's it. That's the song. I don't know. I feel like song endings kind of make themselves pretty apparent, because with Chlorine Tears is like one of our longest songs, and it was just like, well, how do we like outro out of this in a tasteful way? And the way that we came up with ends up making the song like almost 4 minutes long, but then you have hesitation marks, and it's like you get to the end of that and you're just like, there could be nothing else that could go after this at all. So
I've noticed with like we haven't really had anyone do reaction videos before these two tracks, and I feel like with both songs, there's been a lot of people that are like, I thought there was another like a breakdown coming or something. And it's like, yeah, we could do that again, I guess, but that's not. I don't feel like that's the best way to end a song sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, depending on how the rest of it is, how the rest of the song goes. But
A common agreement that like everybody like in this sort of genre agrees with is that they're not really too into the fading outro where the volume just gets lower and lower. So I've noticed that bands, especially in this genre, have been doing that less and less.
yeah, absolutely.
it feels like a cop out.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think a big part of a song structure and like making a good song structure is not overstaying your welcome. I think that's like a huge like focus that we've had from day one. Just like, if a song's done, it's done. Like, don't try to squeeze anything extra in there. Like, you have to make sacrifices. You have to be ready to make sacrifices for ideas that you wanted to come through or like whatever. You just have to put shit on the back shelf sometimes and just like accept that the song is good and then just like let it out into the world, you know?
Unless you start a prog metal band, then everything you just said goes out the window.
Yeah. Well, I did
There's
that.
no rules.
Yeah, I did that in high school. I'll never go back.
Never say never, right? Before you know it, Foreign Hands is going to sound like Opeth.
Oh, no. They won't have most of us if that's the case.
Hey, if you guys were prog metal now, I could be 40 minutes late to your set and make it before the first song ends. So.
That's true. That's true.
And now that when it comes to the live presence, is there a similar energy that goes into playing live as you do when you're songwriting, or do you consider songwriting and playing live almost two completely separate art forms that you have to master?
I think they're pretty separate, honestly. Like songwriting comes with its own, like troubles and stuff, kind of like we were discussing previously, and a lot of things to keep in mind. But like when you're playing live, I don't know. I feel like you can express yourself to a certain degree when you're songwriting, but there's like production and there's like all kinds of other ideas that come into play, like with your other band members and stuff. When you're playing live, like that's the only time that I feel like you get a moment to express like yourself fully and like transparently. Like people see what you're doing, and that's like they will see that and relate that to you for like the rest of their lives, as long as you're like a band, and they'll take that away and that's what they'll keep in their mind, and so I think that it's a visual thing, it's a very personable thing, and I think that they are very different art forms.
Especially, do you almost feel like crowd interaction and stage presence is almost something you have to like practice as much as like the material in a way, or is that just something that as you play more and more shows develops naturally over time?
I would say it develops naturally, like, because that's the part that you don't want to be practiced too much. Like, yep. I don't think any of us have ever been in a dance studio and watched ourselves in the mirror do like a headbang or a stick flip or whatever. Obviously, there's like some measure of practice, but usually the practice is with the playing. Just develops over playing it again and again and again.
You don't practice swinging your bass around without.
I don't have the room to do that. Yeah. And I could probably go to the park, I guess, and do that, but
you'll definitely get some looks. You'll get some viral TikToks out of that
for sure.
I don't know. He lives in Philly. They might not. They might not
just try to take my bass from
me. Yeah. Might not be too surprised.
If you do that in New York, that alone will get you some tips. So, and maybe even another deal. Yeah. Yep. And finally, the final question I wanted to ask you is just what is in store for Foreign Hands in the future? Congrats on signing with Sharp Tone. You got these two new singles out now. Bleed the Dream is an absolutely kick-ass EP, and it definitely made me want more from Foreign Hands. What else could we be expecting in terms of new music and tours, if you're allowed to say, of course? This will be uploaded by midnight, so.
We haven't locked anything down specifically next year, and definitely not anything we can, like, speak on other than like the obvious few like fests that have been announced. I mean, we're doing all of like our favorite fests next year. Like we're doing FYA really early on, LDB. We're doing Furnace Fest, which will be really sick. So those are like the big announced ones that we're doing, and then I don't know. I can't really speak on too much else right now because we haven't really confirmed anything. But I will say that like from front to back, like next year will be a very busy year for us. So
Look forward. Hopefully, you guys come back to New York.
yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody. Foreign Hands, new stuff coming very soon. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.